Go.
So this is how I met your whiskey, getting into the spirit of product identity and the market of whiskey. Mostly, I'm trying to tell you that I'm looking at the identity of product, not actually drinking it. So this guy is actually important, and you may not realize it, but Mad Men is an actual big part of my project. Not the watching of it, but its impact on us. So in 2014, American bourbon and whiskey sales rose 7.4%, which is quite a bit when you consider that constitutes approximately $2.7 billion of industry in 1 year. So what we're looking at is friction and flow, friction being the traction product gains in the market, what it's selling, and flow is the ability for those products to reach markets. That's kind of what I'm looking at the most. The idea being that the old identity of whiskey is, no offense, Mr. Murray, but is that it's old men in dinner jackets drinking and kind of idling away the night. And that's actually grown stale in today's market. So what we have is a new identity, which is, as you can see, a little nicer on the eyes. And Jim Beam is just one of many of them that are rebranding themselves and giving you a new look at their product. And the why? Well, the product needs to sell to millennials. They're the new target audience of whiskey and bourbon. And the reason behind that, according to the G-Brief, is that millennials are looking for authenticity, heritage, and taste. Authentic or authenticity meaning that they're not lying to you, and in some cases, if they're lying to you, they're honest about it. The idea being that you know where the product's coming from and what it is, not what it pretends to be. Heritage is a double-edged sword for whiskey and bourbon because it does have that old identity, but at the same time it maintains a system of elegance and the idea that you are somehow important for drinking this. So it gives that extra weight to it. Taste, as you can see, is extremely complicated, and honestly, millennials are interested in what they can drink and what tastes good to them, according to whiskey and bourbon. So they're trying out as many different tastes as they possibly can. Now we get to the ads, and this is Jameson's 2009 campaign, which picked out their patron, John Jameson, and presented a satirical portrayal of him, which gained authenticity because they were purposely being over the top. They made him into a folk hero, but the truly ingenious thing here is that I've circled it. The taste above all else. The product is the most important part, even over their folk hero. Now, heritage via pop culture, the best thing to happen to whiskey since glass bottles is Mad Men. They actually, as I'll show you, they're actually impactful in ways that you wouldn't have ever thought. They've affected men's fashion and suits since that show came out, and personal favorite is a collection of poetry, Frank O'Hara's Meditations in an Emergency, was just shown on a premiere, and it gained sales. Now, taste, Johnny Walker has a little something to say about taste, but what we're seeing is more and more different tastes in bourbon and whiskey. And that specifically, this is where it happens. Fireball actually constitutes, according to the 2014 study, 90% of American whiskey sales. So, they've obviously hit the right mode. Now, the old identity of whiskey and bourbon, that had the flow. They could actually reach markets, but what they were lacking was that friction. They weren't able to sell their product because it didn't connect with their audience. The new identity has been rebranded and recast to actually appeal to the markets themselves, and therefore, with different flavors and different infusions of flavors, the target audience has actually been targeted, and they're gaining friction. I don't have enough time to tell you about Japanese whiskey. Yes, that's a thing, or the fact that they're winning all of the awards. Yes, there are awards for whiskey, but Japanese are also highly interested in putting their product with technology. So in the end, I'm not selling you on drinking bourbon or whiskey. I'm just telling you that it's a market that is in the billions, and they have a lot of push, and having David Beckham doesn't hurt. It cut off before I got that last bit, but I don't really need that last bit.